Well, I promised you a very, very special broadcast last night. Of course, we have been banned from Twitter for the last month. So the first thing I want to ask all of you to do is subscribe to this channel, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you are watching it. Let me know where you are calling in from all over the world. Lovely to see you all. Now, this is something that we did when we were on a very, very low capacity, and we only had one channel to go out on, which was my wife's Facebook channel. And it concerns a very, very interesting project that we've been working on during lockdown, which is the acquisition of, and we're very, very interested in the idea of global reforestation and the restoration of nature. We did a broadcast which was an interview of Selwyn Dyverstein, who is the CEO of DGB. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play you that interview again because many of you here didn't see it, and I wanted all of you to have an opportunity. And of course, I want to make it very, very clear, I am not in any way recommending DGB as an investment. I'm not recommending it. I'm not recommending it. I, of course, I'm stating my interest. This is a company that my wife and I have invested in. This is a company that we are helping with. But a number of you have asked to meet Selwyn, and you did want to see an interview of him. And I know a lot of you missed this. So without further ado, I will reintroduce that. And please share this across all platforms. You'll have a little bit of time because you're going to see the intro again. While the intro is playing, please share this across all platforms and please subscribe to the channel. What happened yesterday is we had so much good news hitting our communication lines that we just did not have time to do a broadcast, but I do genuinely apologize. But this is what I was going to play you last night. Thank you. Well, good evening to everybody, and a very, very warm welcome to the Infinity Salon at Camelot Castle, or the Blue Room, which is called the Blue Room for pretty obvious reasons. It's quite blue. And anyway, a very, very warm welcome to you all. Now, tonight we have somebody joining us who is not only one of the most interesting businessmen and CEO in Europe at the moment, but he also happens to be a very good friend of ours who we've gotten to know very well over the past couple of years. His name is Selwyn Dyverstein. And it's a name that you're going to be hearing a lot of, we believe, in the coming months, because what Selwyn has actually achieved over the last 2 years, in our opinion, is very, very spectacular. And I would ask each and every one of you that cares about this planet, that cares about our world, that cares about all living things, to share this broadcast right now. This is going to be something that I think we can all agree on. Selwyn is now the Chief Executive Officer of the Dutch Green Business, or DGB, which is a company that Irina and I have taken an interest in the last few months. And we've been talking for some time now about the importance of global reforestation. And as you know, we have successfully lobbied several governments around the world to increase their reforestation efforts, from the British government, the Chinese government, to several other governments around the world, in America, of course. And the idea that there should be more trees in the world, and that we should look after living things slightly better, and that we should, if you like, breathe life into our most loved planet is not a new idea, and we certainly don't claim to have come up with that idea. But what we have done is we've championed that idea. So it's our great pleasure to welcome onto the screen Selwyn Dyverstein. I'm going to try and add him in. There he goes. Selwyn.
Hi, Selwyn.
Hi, John. Hi, Rina. Good to see you again.
Really
You're
good to
looking
see
beautiful.
you.
Good to see you too.
Good to see you. Well, you know, a lot of people on here may know who you are. Obviously, you have, at various different stages, been the golden boy of the Dutch Stock Exchange. That, of course,
That's what they call you, apparently, in Holland.
That's what they call you in Holland. You obviously have had tremendous success in the finance markets. But for those of people perhaps joining us for the first time that don't know of you, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your biography? How did you get to where you are now?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me on the show. I've always watched it, and it was very good to have something sensible to watch during the whole lockdown period, and I've enjoyed the show quite a lot, and you're doing very well as a host, both John and Irina. So it's good to be here. And but I've always had an interest in trading. My mother always said that when I was young, I didn't used to play with the marbles. I used to trade them, and I was never playing with them. I was always trading. And when I grew up, it became Pokemon cards, and a little later it was scooter parts. And before I knew it, and I was 18, I ended up on the stock market, because if you're trading, then the stock market is the biggest trading game of them all. And when I was 18, I started investing. And because I was so into it, investing became active trading, because I didn't have the patience to wait for years and years to see my investments grow. And I really took an interest in everything related to public companies, the stock market in general, macroeconomic influences like inflation. And when the time I started, it was for the rest of the world, it was very common that the stock markets always have the tendency to go up. When I started, it was just before the financial crisis, and everything went down and nothing was stable. And I learned myself how to trade. Later, I went to Amsterdam, from a smaller city in the southern part of the Netherlands to Amsterdam, to trade on the Dutch stock market. And I've never left, basically. It's what I love to do. I love the stock markets, I love the trading, and it's something in my blood, as they say.
Wow.
That's wonderful. And you are the CEO of DGB, which stands for Dutch Green Business. And could you tell us what does that mean exactly?
Well, it's being a trader, I was always on the other side, and I used to analyze the companies that went public and checked out the annual reports. I grew from a trader into an asset manager, and we managed investors' money to invest according to my strategy. And I was always on the other side. I was always the analyst and the strategist, looking for public companies and what they did wrong, so we would sell the stock, or what they did very, very right, so we would buy the stock. And so I really understand how the listing works and how a public company works. So to achieve global reforestation and the scale of nature conservation, which is necessary, there immediately I thought, okay, there is a need for a public company that focus solely on nature conservation and nature preservation, because the leverage of the stock market, that is amazing. The economic forces that are unleashed on the stock market will enable us to reforest the planet at scale. So as a CEO, I do the daily business of the company and take care of all stakeholders involved, from the shareholders to the employees to every project we undertake, basically.
Wow, and it's probably an important question, but it's one that I am fascinated by, and I think our viewers will be fascinated by. What is the purpose of DGB?
Well, and that's a very, very good question, because for a very, very long time, I have lived my life and walked around saying, okay, I know how to structure this, and I know how to trade other people's idea, basically. And if it's a good company, I can back it and fully stand behind it and marketeer it and invest in it and make it grow. But for a long time, I've walked around and say, okay, what is a good purpose? And I've always loved nature, always loved trees. But when I met you and you talked to me about creating a financial instrument with trees, it always stuck to me. And so the purpose, I think, out of all people, you can explain the purpose better than anyone else. Because I see you basically as the founder of this purpose. Is the purpose of DGB is to reforest the planet at scale and really bring back nature where it is hard. If you look at the numbers, 100 years ago, there were 6 trillion trees. There's only 3 trillion left. And if you look at the animals, because nature is more than just trees, if you look at biodiversity and animals, if we don't act, then it's estimated that 25,000 different animal species will become extinct. So I think it's the purpose of DGB is really to do good for this planet and bring back nature and restore it and maybe even improve it. Maybe have more trees than there were ever before.
I mean, I do recall very, very well, almost as if it was yesterday. It was almost a timeless meeting that we had in this room. And, you know, you had a question though, darling.
For Selwyn?
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, this is quite the purpose. It is huge and exceptionally important. And what made you, Selwyn, undertake this mission?
No, that's a good question as well, is that I see myself as someone who knows how to leverage a good idea, how to, with both the combination as an entrepreneur, which I've been for over 15 years, I've started my company, and several companies, always was the investor. So I see myself as someone who can leverage an opportunity, and especially with an instrument like a public company. So what really stuck to me was that if you have that skill, you can basically always survive and do well for yourself. But with DGB and with this purpose, you can use that skill and that skill set and the instrument and the leverage for something really, really pure and really good. And it's amazing to see a tree grow, to see a forest protected, because of things we're doing at DGB. It's one thing to create a mobile phone or make a good new energy drink. That's all very exciting, but I think the purpose of DGB, which is to conserve nature, it's an amazing thing to achieve. And from the years going forward, I really look forward to our AGMs, our shareholders meeting, where we not only announce how much revenue and how much profit we've made, but also how much trees, because of us, are still standing, and how much new nature is created, and how much animals are protected, and how much oceans are cleaned from all the plastics that go in there. So the purpose is really pure, and I love that.
I love that too, and it's been a real pleasure for us to work with you and be in partnership with DGB, and it definitely does bring life, doesn't it? It brings life to us and to many of our friends and the viewers. They really support this mission and this purpose, and I think this is so unique, and the future is incredible. And could you possibly tell us how are we going to achieve the purpose? What kind of business model do you envision as CEO? Because this is so exciting, and I don't think anything like that has existed so far in terms of a public company.
No, especially that combination of economic forces with something good as nature conservation. We're the first public company in the world to have that goal. And that's an amazing opportunity. And of course, there's a lot of charities doing good work. There's government grants, which is very well spent. But there's also another side that charities, that money doesn't actually come where it needs to be, or government grants are not spent well. So to have a commercially driven company, I think is the best way to achieve that. And to answer your question, is of course there needs to be a business model. It needs to be economically sustainable to not be another charity or another thing where people give their money to and then hope something happens. So basically, if we take one step back, the trend that has been evolving over the last couple of years is that the world is becoming more sustainable. There's a lot of attention on carbon emissions and greenhouse gases in general. And what that has created is the fact that a lot of companies now want to become carbon neutral. And in order to do so, they need to prove that. If you take big companies, large organizations like Starbucks or Microsoft, they all say we will be carbon neutral by the year 2030. But how do they do that? They're focused on building computers and making coffee. So they let others do that for them. They let others start projects like DGB. We will plant a lot of trees. We will protect a lot of nature. And by doing so, we produce what's called carbon credits. Because nature, with the whole trend of carbon emissions need to go lower, and whole climate change being one of the biggest things in the world right now, it has a value to let your trees stand up and conserve nature. And to summarize that is, if we plant a tree, the tree, of course, they sequester carbon, they take carbon out of the air. So that tree has a value to companies that are in need of compensating their carbon offsets. So the business model of DGB is we plant or protect forests, we certify our projects, we receive carbon credits, which we then sell to corporations who want to have a greener image and do good for the world. And then, of course, with that money, we do a next project and maintain the existing nature. So that's really the business model. And if you look at the carbon prices, the carbon offsetting prices over the last couple of years, they've been rising. And that's really good to undertake this mission that we are.
I mean, it is. I have been privileged, of course, to have seen the financial modelling that you have. Really, you've designed this instrument, and can I just say that, in my opinion, it's a very beautifully designed instrument. It's a thing of great beauty. So DGB clearly has this fantastic purpose. And it's hard to predict the future, but how big is this opportunity on the commercial side? Is CO2 offsetting a large market, and how do you see it developing over the next few years?
Yeah, there's two things to take into account to talk about a market size and where it's going. And one is an already existing very, very large market, which is basically the market of donations and charities, which is overall in the world already on nature conservation and animal protection a 14 billion a year market.
Amazing.
And so people are giving away that money in the hope that something good comes out of it. And here we are with DGB, where we can prove that something good comes out of it. But the real focus point is the carbon offsetting market, which is there's such a shortage of carbon offsetting at the moment that the United Nations, they created a task force, and the task force is called Scaling Up Voluntary Carbon Offsetting Markets. And I think they planned to come together once a year, but they switched that to once every month because there's a real need to scale up those markets. It's currently roughly 700 million a year market, but the estimations are that the market will go very much towards 2030 with the whole Paris Climate Accord. It will become a lot larger. And to give you some more facts about that is that if all the companies, the large corporations who committed to net zero carbon emissions in 2030, if they were to keep their promises and be a net zero company in 2030, there's a need for 15 times growing this market.
Amazing.
There's 15 times too little carbon offsets to provide only the companies that have already committed.
That's
and the
amazing.
companies that are already committing now, they're really on the early adapters. Because there's a lot of companies that still need to do that. If you look at the main streets right now, all the shops, it's there. There's a lot of need for carbon offsetting, but it's still growing every year. It's a growing market. It has been for the last 6 years. And in order to make all the goals and all the agreements on the Paris Climate Accord, this market is only going up.
Yeah, could you, since you mentioned Paris Accord, could you, what would be the impact of this agreement to the planet, to the world, Paris Climate Accord?
Yeah, the Paris Climate Accord is huge on the climate side. And to give you an idea about how big it is, and I think you're, as a very political couple, you're full aware of this already. But the first thing Joe Biden did after his inauguration, I think he didn't even sleep a night in the White House before he did it, but first thing he did was sign up for the Paris Climate Accord again. It was on top of his list. So it's a really big thing for the world, for politics, that it states that all governments worldwide are really focused on it. But what it actually means is in the Paris Climate Accord, and I recommend everyone reading it because it's not that long, but to summarize it is a summary of the emissions, and it is an agreement that governments and countries worldwide will reduce their carbon emissions, and they set targets for the year 2030 and the year 2050. And the agreement basically states that every year we come closer to 2030, we are either going to make that goal or we're not, we're behind. And we are very much behind. And whether people agree or not agree with climate change or with the Paris Climate Accord, it's there. And there is therefore a need for countries and governments to reduce carbon emissions. And what do governments do when they have to do something is they put it on the people. I don't know, there's probably a good English expression for it. There is in Dutch on that. But they will, if the Dutch government will have to pay because their carbon emissions are too high, what do? They introduce a carbon tax.
Right.
and it taxes the people.
Now, that's a good point. I heard that in Holland now that there is in fact a carbon tax. Is that true?
Exactly, yeah. In Holland, they have a carbon tax on the industry. So you have individuals, businesses, and industry, like metals and mining companies. There is a carbon tax for them already, and they are introducing a carbon tax for individuals and businesses. Yeah.
That's an interesting trend, and I'm sure we're going to see a number of other countries now. I mean, what's so exciting for me here is obviously in this very room here a few years ago we had really what wasn't even a particularly long conversation, and we discussed the idea of creating a financial instrument that could allow global capital to engage in the purpose of reforestation. And you know, it is just amazing how fast and how far things have come since that conversation. And of course now it's very exciting because every day we're seeing the DGB share price trade on Euronext, and you know, I'm sort of, obviously because I'm interested in it, I'm watching that share price and I'm seeing it has even increased since you took the company over.
Oh yeah.
And I think the share price was around 66 when you took it over, and I think today, if I'm correct, it closed at about 139 or something. So that's an interesting increase. And of course, to my knowledge, you haven't really announced your plans for the company other than in what the market already has. Now, to me, what is most exciting, and one of the real things that gave me a real buzz, and I don't know if you remember this, Selwyn, but when we had an email from the DGB.Earth website, and somebody sent us in an email subscribing to plant 1 tree a month. Mm-hmm. And the first time that happened, I was just so excited by that, because I could see that if one person could plant 1 tree, well, then that could be something that could be replicated many, many times. And then, of course, 2 days ago, you had an email for somebody that wanted to plant 1,000 trees. And that, of course, just on the basis of scale, that was even more exciting.
It is. It's very exciting to see. It's one thing to have good ideas, but it's another thing if it actually materializes, and to have your first customer. It's always very exciting. And because what we do is we basically offer different services, and the one I explained with the carbon offsetting is really for the larger corporations, and we will work together with project partners. We announced the other day a very important project partner in South America who has done all that, who's already selling to Microsoft, to Total, to BP. He's one of the bigger sellers. That's business to business, and they will need to offset to keep their targets. But on the other side, there's people, and myself, I'm one of them, and I think you are too, who just enjoy nature and really enjoy watching a tree grow, watching to have a walk through the forest. And so we decided to have a tree planting subscription, and to say if you own a business and you want to offset, DGB can do that. If you're an investor and you want to invest in the company, well, there's DGB trades on the stock market. But if you just want to make a gesture, and with our tree planting subscription, everyone can plant 1 tree a month from as low as €3.50, and we will plant 1 tree a month, and you will go together with the larger investments, see that tree grow, and that allows us to finance our projects on nature conservation, on tree planting, which we have under option worldwide. And we will keep you updated every month again. And I think in the end, it's one thing to have large clients and serve big corporations, but the power of the people is here also very, very, very true. And I see DGB have a lot of very enthusiastic investors and clients who are really focused on the purpose, and all those little 1, 2, 3, 4 trees a month, they can plant a forest.
Well, it's sort of interesting, isn't it? Because there is this great metaphor of from little acorns, great oaks will manifest. But there is a question, why did you choose to make the company a public company? Because you didn't have to do it as a public company. You could have kept it as a private company. We could have had a few investors. Why did you choose to make DGB a public company? What's the advantage? Just take us through, because not everybody that's watching maybe understands the difference between a public company
Exactly.
and a private company. Why did you make that choice?
Well, there's several ways to, when you have a good idea, when you have a good purpose, a good business plan, there's several ways to go forward. And with this purpose, of course, the most logical thing was to start a foundation and to say, okay, we have a foundation and we do good for the world. But there's a lot of charities, and it will always be limited to the amount of donations that come in. And every time you start a project, you need new donations. You're basically all the time asking for more donations. So it's not leveraging the opportunity and what's needed. And having worked in asset management as an asset manager, we created funds with different teams. But then again, let's create a fund. And John, you invest 1,000 euros. And Irina, you invest 1,000 euros. And I will invest 1,000 euros. We will have then 3,000 euros to invest. But it's always limited to that. And we can do good things with that. We can generate profit. But it's always just that. And with a public company, it's much more than that. Because on the stock market, it's the expectation also has a value. And if you look at the top richest people in the world, they all went public with their companies. If you look at the largest corporations in the world, they all went public. Because if you look at Tesla is the best example. I remember Elon Musk saying, I'm going to make sure that everyone worldwide is driving an electric car. And by that time, he hadn't even produced an electric car. But people could get behind that idea. And that idea got a value because it was traded on a daily basis. And his company was worth 100 million before he produced the first car.
That's incredible.
And people were amazed when it hit the 10 billion mark, when he was only producing 1,000 cars a month. But everyone got behind the idea, and that allowed him to actually deliver. And now Tesla is the biggest electric car manufacturer in the world. And but the value is still more than all the major car brands combined. Tesla nowadays is worth more than Volkswagen, Ferrari, name a good old English brand, Jaguar, everything combined.
That's
because
amazing.
People see that opportunity. And Netflix, everyone could see the opportunity of the whole world subscribing to watch movies. And I can give 1,000 examples because I'm really a stock market nerd on that thing.
You're very
but
passionate
to
about
summarize it here is that what's needed is global reforestation at scale. And I think a lot of people see that, and DGB is an instrument where people can get behind and say, okay, now do it. And at the stock market, we have global publicity, being a listed company. We are liquid. People can invest on Monday and decide they don't like us anymore on Tuesday. It's very liquid. You can get in and out. It's not a donation. It's not an investment that you're stuck into. It's very liquid, which is the valuation is higher. And of course, it allows us to do all possible financial agreements to leverage an opportunity. And in time, the larger institutions of this world will invest in DGB and then allow us to conserve more nature and do bigger projects. So the instrument is really the way to go to achieve global reforestation.
That's beautifully put, but this is also one of the reasons why you became very excited about the public company, John, and the purpose of global reforestation is giving power to the people, bringing economic market forces and to the people, and giving that purpose of global reforestation accessible to general public. Isn't that why you became very, very excited about it?
You're absolutely right, because all through my life I've loved trees, I've loved forestry, and there was a moment in my 20s when I was in a forest with one of the main landowners in the world, actually, and incredible human being. He was a good friend, and he told me that he'd just recently acquired a tract of the Amazon in order to protect it. And at the time I remember thinking, well, that's all very well, but how does a young man like myself take a view on something that's going to take at least 100 years to materialize as an investment? So it's all very well for the large families, the royal families of Europe, the princely families of Europe, the large institutions, and so on and so forth, to be able to buy large amounts of forest. But what I wanted to see if that we could create, and this was the basis of our discussion, as I recall, was what about the ordinary man in the street? Because actually they may not have $1 million to invest in a tract of forestry. They may have £50. They may have £100. They may have even less than that. How can they participate? Because what I've found in life is just because somebody doesn't have money, what they do have is a willingness and a love for nature. Very often, the simplest of people, ordinary people in this world, have a much greater love for nature than even some of people on the other end of the scale. I don't think money is necessarily a measure of how much a person loves nature. So you had another question, which I think is important for our viewers. Why don't you ask that?
So about the public company.
Yeah, about the advantages and the disadvantages.
No, I wanted you to explain. It's very interesting what you mentioned about the instrument. So what would you say are main advantages of the public company for a regular person that's looking at investments and
what are the advantages and disadvantages of a public company? And also, I think it'd be interesting, I think Holland is where public companies began in the first place, didn't they?
Yes, that's true. And it's a public company is named a public company because it's really by the public for the public. It all started with the Dutch East India Company, where they found out that yes, we can travel by ship to the other part of the world and come back with all sorts of stuff and then sell it and then maybe send 2 ships back again, come back, and you will be going back and forth a lot of times. So they said, who benefits from the stuff we bring back? And they had those people invest in the Dutch East India Company. And with those investments, they didn't have to wait for 20 trips to go back and forth. They could just go there with 60 ships immediately. So it was the public that invested in those missions and allowed the company to really leave an impression right away, and really scale right away. And so it's really a public company is by the public and for the public. And with this instrument, it's the same way. It's very good to have something and to really contribute, I would say. It's not for nothing that it's called, it's a public company, and also a share, because you have a share in something. I remember when I was young and I bought my first share, and I saw a truck drive by. I invested in Philips because I'm from the south of the Netherlands, and Philips is one of the bigger companies there. My dad even used to work there, and I got 2 shares of Philips, and I was really rooting for them. And I saw a truck drive by, and it had Philips on the side. And I thought, I have a share in that company. I own a piece of that company. And it's might be silly to some people. It's really something, that's how I see it. And with being a public company, people can really get behind that and own a piece of the company as well, and help in any way possible. We've had emails just the other day from someone saying, okay, you can improve your website. It's looking a bit silly on that page. I own shares, so I want the website to look good. Someone else said, that's a good idea. Go speak to him. He might, I'm not a big investor, but I'll introduce you to someone because this is really needed. And that's what it does by being a public company. You can really, from one share to 10 million shares, you will have a share in the business. And all good ideas are welcome. And we're all open for good suggestions. But that's what it creates when you have a public company. And combine that with a good purpose. And you're unbeatable.
Well, I love that, because that's what you're saying. From all of the subjects that we took up on our broadcasts, nothing ever got more agreement from our viewers than the importance of planting trees. I actually haven't met anyone yet who thinks that it's a bad idea to plant trees. People really love that purpose. And from what you're saying, Selwyn, it seems like DGB will give people an opportunity to participate in such powerful activity that they have so much passion for, help the planet, and possibly benefit financially.
Exactly. You said it. It's a combination of doing something good and investing in something, and combine that. And because it's one thing to invest green, which is really the trend nowadays. But what is actually green? There's no company on the stock market that is investing in nature and conserving nature at the moment. And to give you one very good example about the carbon credits is a forest elephant. And I think I've told you is that an elephant nowadays, you can calculate how much carbon an elephant offsets. Because if you have a forest without an elephant, it's doing a lot less well than with an elephant. Because the elephant is the best forest ranger you can have. He walks around, he poops them here and there, he takes out the young trees. And so the elephant has a value because with that elephant there, less carbon goes into the air. And the carbon the elephant offsets is actually worth $2 million a year. So finally, with carbon prices going through the roof, and whether people agree or don't agree with climate change, that's a fact. And finally, nature conservation has a value. It becomes worthwhile to hire protection against anti-poaching. It becomes worthwhile to protect the oceans from really being fished till there's no more fish in it. And deforestation is the number one reason of these greenhouse gases. So let's stop all that, and it has a value. And exactly as you say, people can participate in a public company from as low as one share.
Beautiful.
It's a beautiful concept, and of course, we've witnessed this now already, and we have started to see the price of DGB shares increase from the moment really that you took over as CEO. And I just want to acknowledge what a fantastic job you have been doing so far. And I have to state my interest. Of course, Irina and I are shareholders. But for those people out there, and in fact, we're also joined here, I see Paul Lee, who
yes,
I believe
he
is a shareholder.
One of the early shareholders.
And he says here, I saw the opportunity straight away. It's a fantastic concept that will only grow just like trees. Well, you see, that's really the simplicity to it. But what can investors, and I know you've got to be very, very precise because, of course, you cannot be giving information out that, other people, can use in relation to the market. But what can investors in DGB expect from the company? Yeah,
and it's very good that you gave me like a little bridge, they call it in the Netherlands, to give me the disclaimer, is being on the board of the company and having the company publicly traded. It's not allowed for me to have future predictions or share information that has not been shared to the market. And but we have had 2 big announcements in the last 2 weeks that really, from my point of view, say it all to our shareholders and potential new shareholders. Is one thing at the AGM at the beginning of February, where we announced our global reforestation project and really announced the business model from using the stock market instrument to attract finance, to finance the best projects, nature conservation, nature restoration, and replanting of trees, and then that whole business model. And I would really introduce, well, the best to answer your question about the future where DGB is heading is to go back to the purpose and say, DGB will do everything in its power to reforest the planet and to protect nature and everything that comes with it. And my background is in finance, and I have a good legal background as well. So the first thing I did was to find the best project managers with the highest level of experience and really are experts in this field long before green and carbon became, and climate change even became relevant to the rest of the world. And I've had 2 conversations the other day. It's really interesting the amount of knowledge that's there. And you have experts on, there's so much, if you look at it, I can just hardly bring it under words. There's in Australia, the forest fires. And we're speaking to experts on how to make sure that there's less forest fires in Australia. We're speaking to nature conservation specialists in Africa. We're speaking to people who help in South America. Just the other day, we announced a partnership with a local company to protect the forest against deforestation. But even in Scotland, the Scottish peatlands are in need of restoration. And the fishing, there's a lot of, well, you're a fisher, right, John? It's the fish have disappeared.
They have.
And there's changes you can see. And DGB will, in the future, use the vehicle, because for me it's a vehicle, it's an instrument, to create as much revenue as possible to have as big as an impact as needed to achieve our goals of reforestation and preservation.
And I think what's exciting is because it's a publicly listed company, you, before too long, if not immediately, have access to the capital markets, the institutional investors. So this is where private investors, ordinary people with a few pounds, let's say, to invest, can join hands. And correct me if I'm wrong, but a share that a major institution buys is exactly the same type of a share as a private individual buys. So the playing field of a public company is a level playing field. Whereas in a lot of private business deals, as I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you're an institution, you sort of get an edge over private individuals. And very often that the you know, it's not such a level playing field. And what I love about the idea of a public company, and of course I should also acknowledge the fact that Euronext, as I understand it, is one of the most regulated exchanges in the world. And what you've acquired is not an AIM listing or a NASDAQ listing. This is a main market Euronext listing. In fact, I believe there's only 100 companies such as DGB traded on the main market. Is that
100 plus, possibly?
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. Euronext is the biggest stock exchange in Europe, and Euronext Amsterdam is the Dutch exchange, and there's only 100 companies listed there, and we're one of them. And the company has been trading since 1957, and we repurposed it and started the Global Reforestation Project. And it is it's an amazing opportunity because indeed you mentioned the amount of compliance and risk management that is in a public company is it's needed because it's protecting the shareholders, it's protecting the larger institutions just as much as it is even more protecting the little shareholders who buy one share, and it's absolutely needed, and it's a very good thing. So the amount of security will give investors a level of comfort.
Well, we're actually joined on the broadcast tonight by a very, very wise friend of mine who is Christina Estrada. And she has communicated ideas will turn into reality with a holistic approach that everyone can benefit from. Win-win. You know, Christina, if you're watching, I completely and utterly agree with you. You are spot on. And timing, of course, in life is everything. And so many factors have come together, and so many coincidences, except I like to say that there really are no coincidences, have come together, and certain pieces have fallen into place. And I just think it is a thing of great beauty. But I do want to talk. Oh, good. Christina is on the broadcast. Well, Christina, good evening to you, and I have to say thank you. Christina Estrada is one of the wisest holistic investors, and is a great global influencer. And I have to say, I really appreciate that insight. We're talking about investors here, but how about people who love the idea of DGB, but maybe at this particular point they don't have any money to invest, but they love the purpose? What can they do to help?
Well, I would invite everyone watching and everyone interested to have a look at our website and see what really attracts them. And we have the tree planting subscription, where people can help us by planting 1 tree a month. There's the share, which is publicly traded, and we always welcome more shareholders to support our mission. But even just as I mentioned, if you see a mistake on the website, please send it to us. If you have a good idea, if you know maybe the company next door that wants a greener image and wants to plant trees as well, go to them and say, hey, I know a good company that can help you plant trees. I've spoken to someone the other day who owns a company, and he said, well, Selwyn, I already own trees. I already own a piece of forest. And I said, well, we can do a project for you. We have the carbon experts there to have a look at your forest. You're already carbon neutral. We can have people write for us. We are very active on social media. Please follow us, share our posts, follow us on Twitter, on Instagram. If you feel inspired and you want to write a blog for us, that's amazing. And just tell everyone about DGB, because it is a public company. It is a story, and you can be part of that story. And I don't want to compare us yet to the Teslas and Amazon of these worlds. But if I speak to someone and they say, what was Amazon like? How did they go public? And you see the stories. People who invested $1 in Amazon, that's worth $1 million now. It's 1,000,000% up. And it started in a similar way. It's a group of people with a great idea. It all starts with an idea, basically. And then if you have that idea and the right instrument, and people can help in any way possible. That's that.
Well, we have also two of our also earlier shareholders here. Other than Paul, we have Julie Carnell, who says, so blessed to be a part in this wonderful company. Our first time at buying shares. So Julie invested early on, and I think she's done quite well. And also Jane Marshall is here too. And she says, there's no greater purpose than reforesting the planet. And those are the people who are actually DGB shareholders.
Well, one of the people who you introduced us to, Selwyn, who is a remarkable, I would call him a Renaissance spirit, is Marcel, who are DGB's partners down in Paraguay. And I think last week you announced the project down there. I think it's the Jaguar project, I think it is known as. And am I correct in saying that by saving that forest, we will also be, if we're successful in that mission, saving the jaguar population there, which is the Paraguayan jaguar, which is quite rare. I believe there's only there's 1,500 in that particular section of the forest. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, exactly. And we have because DGB is really the structuring of it and guarding the purpose. And to operate worldwide, we do really rely on local partners that are there for the protecting of the trees, the nurturing of the trees, and to have the local expertise, because planting trees in Paraguay is a lot different than Scotland and Australia. So there's a lot of different knowledge needed and involved. And we found the most amazing partnership in Paraguay. The company is led by Marcel van Heeswijk. He is, it's a Dutch company actually, but he moved back because he was born in Brazil. He moved back there in 2014. He started a farm. He started a plantation. And while building that farm, that very renewable farm, because the nut he produces is used in biodiesel, and he started noticing that the rainforest around him really got deforested. And he looked into that and said, that's not possible. So long story short, is he is our local person there with a big plantation with people to take care of everything we need. And indeed, we have sourced over 300,000 hectares of tropical forest there together with our local partner. And it is indeed true that there's only 60,000 jaguars left. And in the land we scouted and the land we have under option, there's at least 1,500 jaguars. So when we do this project, and as we announced in the press release, is yes, we have the right local partner, yes, we have the land under option. We're doing the capital round now to gather all the finances to get going, and we will not only protect the forest but also the jaguar.
So this is one of our first projects, so that people understand.
Yes, exactly. Yes, and I really recommend people to go to the website and click on the press. It's in the top left, and you can see the latest press releases. And if people sign up for the newsletter, they will automatically receive the press releases as well. And but we announced that, and there's a good video with it as well, which really shows the work we're doing there and who the partners are that we're working with. But the combination, because nature is the trees, but it consists of all living things, and animals play a big role in that too.
And we had a few questions in the feed earlier and just now. Could you just clarify? You mentioned one of our first projects, you mentioned the jaguar forest. How are we going to be saving? Why are we going to be saving those jaguars? And how are we going to contributing to reforestation by buying an existing forest, so that everyone understands?
Oh, yeah. Well, in the business model of DGB, the revenues come from the carbon offsetting. And that allows us to buy a project, receive the revenue and the profits from the carbon offsetting, we sell to large corporations, and then do that again and again and again. But there's different types of projects. And I mentioned the peatland restoration in Scotland. There's also the planting of new bamboo trees, for instance, in the Philippines. There is the burning of parts of some forests or grasslands in Africa, because if you burn it, there's less chance of an action, and if you control it, there's less chance of a really spreading fire. And of course, there's buying existing tropical forests that is in danger of immediate deforestation. And all those different things I just mentioned, you can see them as frameworks. And the carbon credit issuers, the verifying body, the accountants basically, that check if you comply to that framework, they check you. And in Paraguay, with the collaboration we just announced, it's really the protecting of forests from deforestation. If we don't act, these forests will get chopped down. We are in direct competition with farmers who will deforest. If we don't buy the land there will be big bulldozers and they will just deforest 50,000 hectares and up in a month. And it's like looking at murder if you see the pace that it goes.
I completely
it's
agree.
Amazing.
It's like witnessing mass murder when you see trees chopped down at this. So basically, this is what we're doing as a first priority. DGB will be focusing on saving the existing forests, tropical forests that are in danger of immediate deforestation. As you said, it's a competition. It's either DGB comes in and saves the forest, or farmers come in and basically cut it all down.
Exactly. It's to increase the world tree cover. First, we need to stop deforestation. Then we need to restore it where, unfortunately, there has been deforestation. Then we can look at planting, and only then we can continue. But the first thing is stop deforestation, which is really going at a pace of, it's huge, basically. It is faster than you can think. It's football fields per second.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and this is one of the reasons, we, as friends of Selwyn and as shareholders of DGB, we would really, really like your help, minimally in sharing this message, because, during lockdown, we have been working extremely hard to make sure that all the various different elements are in place, and they now are all in place. It is basically now, from my perspective, from what I can see, and I am not such an expert in the financial markets as Selwyn is, and I've learned a tremendous amount from Selwyn in relation to the financial markets, but I am somebody that is experienced in business. And what I can see from my personal perspective, and this is my personal opinion, is that we are now in a position of add water, or really add money and mix, really. And there is a sense of urgency because, take for instance the project in Paraguay. That project is either going to be acquired by DGB, or it is going to be acquired by a farmer who is going to chop down that tropical forest, remove the habitat of the jaguars and all the other animals, the lemurs, the this, the that, all the various different species that live in that area, which is about 90,000 hectares in total, I believe is the land that we have under option, or DGB has under option. And this would be a great, great tragedy. And of course, that land will be farmed, and probably somebody will put cows and sheep on it or something of that nature, and that will end up in your McDonald's or in your beef patty, which, there are other areas in the world, in our view, that should be better used for that type of farming activity. So there is a sense of urgency. So what I would ask each and every one of you to do, just minimally, is share this broadcast, sign up to DGB on social media. I think DGB has a Telegram channel, doesn't it, where you can get updates. So you can follow DGB on Telegram. I do have another question, Selwyn. Are we entering, in your opinion, and I am going to ask you to give a more broad financial opinion at this stage, not necessarily in relation to DGB, but are we entering a new era in stock exchanges where profit is not necessarily the only motive? And could you elaborate a little bit more what you mean by DGB as a purpose company?
Oh, of course, definitely, yes. It's we have evolved from the models and the way of valuation that were normal until 20 years ago, I would say. It really started, to really take you through that in history, is really started with the dot-com bubble, with the internet, where people were no longer looking at how much money does a company make now, and maybe next year or the year after, and how do we value that? Because with the internet in 2000, that's why everyone remembers that, is when the stock market, it went crazy, because all of a sudden it became about potential. And that's when it started, when people were like, okay, we can value a company differently, revenues. And then Apple came along. And the Apples of this world really had something that was going to be used worldwide. All of a sudden, this was the first time that a product was sold worldwide. So people knew that because everyone in England and the Netherlands and some parts of the United States had an iPhone, there was a need for this product in the entire world. Mm-hmm. So when Netflix came, and that's a different evolvement into how companies are valued, by the time we were now 2015, 2016, people were immediately, when a product and a company went public, looking at the potential. It's no longer how much is this online streaming service actually making now, but how many subscribers can they get? Mm. With Facebook and Twitter, the same. It's not about how much users you have now, how much user can you get? Potentially, you have 7 billion customers in the entire world. So by the time Uber and Tesla 2 years ago were really in the main attraction point, the revenues, because Uber is still losing $1 billion a year, because it's only about the potential. Mm. And it may sound crazy for more traditional investors, but it actually makes sense if you look at it from the point of view that the stock market is just a leverage on ideas. Mm. And by using that leverage, you can really get to the end result a lot quicker. Mm. And so nowadays, when people see that, and they only look, well, most of the, not only, but the main important thing is it a good product? Is it a good result? And that's how a company is being valued. Mm. Because if you have a good product, and if you're delivering on that, then of course you will sell more. It doesn't matter how many iPhones you sell today. If the iPhone is the greatest phone in the world, you will sell millions tomorrow. Mm. And that's where DGB perfectly fits in, because we have a great product, and I really strongly believe that. And yes, we can make money, and we have the whole world as our playfield, because nature needs to be restored everywhere in the world. Mm. And we're going towards a world where every government and a lot of companies will need to go carbon neutral. Mm. And to have that potential of every company in the world is a potential customer of DGB. Every person in the world is a potential investor and fan of DGB. Mm. So to have that there is the greatest product there. So I think that's how people should value DGB.
Mm. I think this is a very, very rare and unique opportunity. Very rarely can you see such an extraordinary set of circumstances coming together to create such potential for any business.
And that's, and I really get excited about this, and I know you do too. But that's also the from my point of view, the risk related to this, because. But I actually encourage that, because in 2-3 years' time, there will be a lot of other businesses who also focus on this. But that's good, because then we have more nature conservation and we have more nature protected. And we really want to create the category. We're not, as a business, there's a lot of entrepreneurs who could be a little scared of competition. And I always encourage it. and because there is a need for this product. And let us be the first to go public and do this. And the more people get excited about this, the better.
I mean, I've had a couple of people say to me they saw when we bought the company it was 66 cents, and now they see the price actually has gone up dramatically to sort of 139 or something. And they had the idea, they said, well, John, I'm too late now. And they think they're too late because the price has already gone up. And how can I mean, obviously you can't give any future predictions or anything like that, but in terms of its life cycle, where is DGB at the moment? Just because I've had a number of people who've said to me, am I too late?
Well, and that's, I love how you ask that question, because that's exactly the way to ask it, because otherwise I would always say I'm not allowed to make any future predictions. But where we are at is we're at the beginning. We're at the absolute beginning. I came on board in September. You became a shareholder a week after. We had the AGM on February 4th. That's less than a month ago when we said, and shareholders voted unanimously on yes, start the global reforestation project. We only announced our first project partner 1.5 weeks ago. And we're just at our first funding round. So it's really just beginning. And there's a lot of comparable companies that are worth having a look at. And we've talked about Tesla and Amazon, and in the Netherlands you have Fastnet. And Fastnet, they provide the chargers next to the highways. And it was such a good product when they built the first charging station. They just raised 150 million because they need to build 100 more charging stations. So we are at the beginning of our global reforestation project, and I'm really excited where we will be next year.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I read an article in the New York Times which said that the carbon offset market could be as large as 1.7 trillion a year, which I rather liked because that's higher than the military-industrial complex spend. That's more than what we're spending on wars at the moment. And of course, I would rather plant a tree than engage in the game of war. And I think that if we could perhaps focus the world's attention a little bit on that, that would be a constructive thing. And somebody said here, Mr. Holy Cats, who is a great fan of yours, darling, apparently.
Yes, yeah.
Buy a tree, save the world, one tree at a time.
Absolutely.
And Holy Cats also said, goodness gracious, please forgive my rudeness, but Lady Mappin is such a beauty. Yes, darling, you are. There we go. Holy Cats, yes, global reforestation. I really, really think that is what this is about. I got very, very excited when the first discussions were being had about Bitcoin on the internet. I personally got very, very excited. Except that, of course, Bitcoin is such a pure instrument that there is no product there whatsoever. And
how many Bitcoin do you have again, John? Is it 100?
I can't talk about such things. I can't talk about such things. But anyway, I got very, very excited very, very early on because I understood the concept and I understood that fiat money is highly inflationary. And anyway, this is not a discussion about Bitcoin. But I have to say that personally, I have never been more excited about the positive qualities of a company. And I have to really acknowledge, Selwyn, what you have done to structure this instrument. And what I would ask each and every one of you to do, get in touch with DGB. The other thing is, I believe I'm correct in saying that you're hiring people. And if there are keen people out there that are looking for a group to be part of that would like to help, Selwyn is a very tough taskmaster And I'm not going to say it's going to be easy to get a job at DGB, but we are definitely...
Surely going to be exciting.
Yeah, DGB, when I say we, I'm speaking obviously as a shareholder. Because that's the nice thing about owning a few shares in something is you do feel that you own something. And I fully understand how you felt when you were a young man with your 2 Philips shares. And it is just very, very exciting. But I just want to acknowledge the beauty of the financial instrument that you've created. It is a thing of great, great beauty. And it's perhaps a funny thing to describe as beautiful. There are many beautiful things
but it is
in
beautiful.
the world. But it is a beautiful thing.
It is beautifully done.
And, you know, it's a beautiful thing to combine the love of creation and the love of enduing nature with life with the ability to combine that with free market forces. And that's what you have successfully achieved, Selwyn. I can't thank you enough for your time. I know that you have had an incredibly busy day and you're, you know, at it round the clock. Is there anything you'd like to add at all?
No, other than thanking you for inviting me, being on, and being a shareholder, of course. Because it's one thing to create a financial instrument, but the instrument is nothing without the purpose. And I see that as a great combination. And I really thank you for that. So that's very good to have. And I really wanted to say that. And indeed, I invite everyone to help. We are at this stage where we're doing well. We're at the beginning of something beautiful, but we can use all the help we can get, whether it's from volunteering to applying for a job, on checking the website, recommending potential new projects, or maybe plant a tree in your own garden and send us a picture. That's good as well. It helps on the mission. It helps on the purpose, and that's always good. And no, it's very good to be on. And thank you both. It was very good. Looking forward to maybe joining again.
And
I hope you will come on again.
We're proud that we can actually talk about the company. For example, here we have Marianne McDonald Woodsum. She's from America. She said earlier, I didn't invest to profit only financially from DGB investment because she believes in the purpose, and I know she does. Yet the share price has been appreciating significantly. And it's always good to back something that grows in value, and to also, you know, if our friends and viewers come on board, it's lovely to hear this from people that, you know, they're doing well out of what they decided to back. So I mean, thank you, Selwyn.
Yeah, I would also like to say that, and I think this does go without saying, but I am going to say it anyway. We are talking about investments. Any money that anyone invests in any share, they have to be willing to lose that money. You know,
that is a responsible
shares
way of
are
looking at
a
it.
risky investment. And our own policy is we never invest in any money in anything that we're not willing to lose. You know, and it is just that simple. Now, that just goes without saying. And there are no guarantees with DGB whatsoever. And I say that purely as an investor. But I'm speaking to friends here, and so I think it's important to be very upfront. But what we're going to do as shareholders is we're going to do everything we can. We are not sit back and watch shareholders. We are get stuck in and help shareholders. And that's what we're going to be doing, is we're going to be using our best possible efforts to help. And even with that, it doesn't mean to say there's any guarantee that our help is going to result in success for DGB, or that indeed anybody else's will. But you know what? We're going to have a lot of fun trying, and we're going to do the best we can. So thank you so much, Selwyn. And
Thank you. Yeah.
hopefully you'll come on Camelot Castle TV again soon.
With an update.
Looking forward to it. Yeah, because trees are a very broad subject. We can talk about trees needed for our planet, to trees and spirituality, and trees as an investment nowadays. So they're a very broad subject. But it's good to be on, and look forward to seeing you again. and very good speaking to you.
Thank you, Selwyn.
Thank you so much. All the very best
All right.
from here. Thank you.
All the best.
Thank you. Now, I'll tell you what we're going to do.
Oops.
Well, that was the young Selwyn Dyverstein, who is the CEO of DGB. If you have any questions, please do send them in. There is of course, the Telegram channel for DGB, which you can follow. Please do share this video everywhere. It would be very, very much appreciated. We will put it out on Twitter. We will put it out all over. We're very excited by this, and we're very pleased to be able to share it with you. And I will, of course, be rerunning this episode at a later date. But please do share it with your friends. Anyway, thanks, sir.
Thank you. Thanks to Selwyn, and thanks to everyone for joining us. It's been a pleasure to see you all.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.